Hi guys, welcome to Brand X Reviews and another edition of BXR Mailbag. Now in this one I am pretty much doing this to celebrate this being the 200th video that I've done at Brand X Reviews, and it ties in with the first ever video that I did, which was in October 2013, and it was a review of the Dark Knight Trilogy Blu-ray box set, but it was a special box set. It wasn't just the generic one that had come out about 9 months before. It was this one, as you can see on my shelf here. You may remember the review, you might not have seen it. Just to kind of be clear, here's a quick clip of that first review that I ever did. Okay, this is my Dark Knight Trilogy Blu-ray box set review. This is the new box set which has come out in October 2013. There was a previous box set, but this one's been kind of re-released with a load of new extra stuff. Right, so this is where things get really nice. You get this hardback style book. I say book, it's not got any writing in it, it's just holds the discs inside there. The artwork is really nice. It's very glossy. You can probably, don't know if you can tell from looking at this, but it's quite shiny and everything. The rest of this book, I think that's pretty much it. You also get this very nice, very glossy book which has got various artwork from the films, photographs. So yeah, I did that video. I didn't really expect this to pick up and become a thing, but it did. Life just goes that way sometimes, I guess. So here we are, the 200th video, and I'm now doing mailbag videos where people can email in and post questions. If they want me to talk about something in depth, fair enough. Now this submission comes in from Paul Cage, who is certainly no secret person in the background at Brand X Reviews. He's done a lot of submissions for the mailbag section particularly. And this one does relate to the Dark Knight Trilogy, so I thought it was appropriate to do this as the 200th video. Kind of rambled on a bit there. Let's just get to the question, shall we? Seriously. Okay, this is the question.
Okay, I have to admit, I am a Marvel fan over DC. I've only watched the latest Batman trilogy once. It has been a while since I watched them and will be a while again. Could you run me through the timeline of the movies and how much time passes throughout the trilogy? Also, how all the characters relate to each other within this Batman universe.
So yeah, really great question there, with kind of going into detail now. As I say, I did a review of the Blu-ray box set, but I didn't get into the actual films themselves. For the 100th video that I did back last summer, we did do a retrospective. Myself and my co-review of the core did talk about the films as a general retrospective. So I'm not going to do that here. I'm going to specifically stick to your questions. So you're asking about the timeline of the movies. Well, as far as I'm concerned, the films from the first one to the third one span just over 9 years. I mean, you've got flashbacks that kind of go beyond that, but the first film, I don't think at any point in these films they tell you what year they're set in, but let's assume that the starting point with Batman Begins is 2005, because that's when the film came out. Jesus, that's 10 years ago, 10th anniversary of that film already. I feel really old saying that. But yeah, it feels like yesterday. But let's just say that film was set in 2005. Now the next film that came out was The Dark Knight, and that came out 3 years later, but it's actually set a year after the events of Batman Begins. We know this because in the film the Joker says, "A year ago those cops and lawyers wouldn't cross any of you." So that means basically the events of Batman Begins, till Batman came along, that was a year ago. Now the next film after that is The Dark Knight Rises, which came out 4 years? Yeah, 4 years after The Dark Knight, but was set 8 years after. And we know this because in the film, one of the characters does say reference to the death of Harvey Dent having taken place. The 8th anniversary of that is at this point in The Dark Knight Rises. So it's been 8 years since the distance between The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises. So you've got a 1 year gap between 1 and 2, and an 8 year gap between 2 and 3. So do the math, it's about 9 years. Now the first film, as I say, if we were to say that was set in 2005, I guess, that means that the next film is set in 2006, The Dark Knight, and then the next film after that, Dark Knight Rises, will be set in, 2014, I guess. So you can work it out. I could be wrong about the actual year that it's being set. That's just kind of the assumption that I've always made. If I'm wrong, if it does actually say in any of these films what year it's specifically set in, post comments, let me know, because I'd be interested to know that fact. Now, you also talk about how the characters kind of relate to each other pretty well, I would say. I mean, this is Christopher Nolan's universe. This is his adaptation of the Batman films, the Batman characters. But having said that, films will always take liberties. I mean, even the Marvel films, Marvel making their own films based on their own characters, they take some massive liberties. I mean, look at the Mandarin, for example, the job that they did with that. I mean, I didn't mind that, but, you know, that was a massive departure from the source material. Christopher Nolan could just as well have done that, but I think with a lot of the characters that he used in this film were quite respectful. I mean, some of them were a bit kind of like, what the hell? Like Robin, for example, Officer Blake, played by Joseph Gordon-Levitt. That isn't Robin. I mean, he's called Robin. Robin's supposed to be his sidekick, so he's Officer Blake, like the new Batman, but he's called Robin. Robin's his actual name. It's like, what the hell? It's Christopher Nolan's adaptation. He's taking liberties. Doesn't hugely make sense. You can kind of give it your own interpretation, what's going to happen to that character. There was some talk that they were going to continue the Dark Knight trilogy, maybe integrate it with the Man of Steel film. Not the case. It's done. They are not continuing this film franchise anymore. It's the new films with Batman and Superman. They do not tie in with this trilogy. This film has been capped off. But as I say, the characters, kind of going back to the original point, the characters that they did do, characters like the Scarecrow, Ra's al Ghul, Talia al Ghul, Batman himself, they were very loyal to the source material. I mean, take the Scarecrow, for example. His origin, his modus operandi, the actual character Jonathan Crane himself was very loyal. I mean, I've read a lot of the comics, a lot of the specific comics that this trilogy is based upon. I've also seen the animated series, stuff like that. I've read a lot of the old comics as well. And I'm happy with what they did with these characters. There isn't really one that springs to mind that I'm thinking, well, I don't like what they did with that character. It was a massive departure. These films are just 10 out of 10. They really are, in my opinion. I mean, it's all subjective, you know, whether you like films or not. But as a Batman fan, as a film fan in general, I like the superhero genre. This trilogy really is awesome. It's a trilogy that I watch like probably once every 6 months or so. So that's kind of the characters, and you're asking how the characters tie together. I can see what you mean. The first film we had the Ra's al Ghul character played by, well, spoiler alert, played by Liam Neeson. They kind of did a bit of foolery with that character as to who he was and all that kind of stuff. But it never occurred to me, and I know the Batman DC superhero characters quite well, but it never occurred to me that they might bring his daughter into this film series. They even said in the first film that he had a wife at one point, that he lost her, which sort of kind of makes sense that he would have a child as well. They had this character in The Dark Knight Rises played by Marion Cotillard, and it never occurred to me until just before she was revealed to be Talia that was who she was. I did not see that coming at all. I mean, I should have. That's just me. You know, I probably should have done, but it never occurred to me that they'd done that. So that was great, because that was fundamentally in the comics. Ra's al Ghul has a daughter, you know. So I mean, they did well to acknowledge that in this film series, albeit 2 films down the line. Other characters as well. Bane, they've used a bit of artistic license on. I mean, the mask. You know, you're going to have an actor like Tom Hardy. They didn't just want some wrestler guy. That's kind of the mistake they made with the Batman and Robin 1997 version of the Bane character. I mean, looks-wise, it looks good. I liked the look of Bane in that, just in like photographs, but the actual performance that he got out of that as just being kind of Poison Ivy's dumb sidekick was not Bane of the comics. But he had a full-on mask, which is like he does in the comics. So with this film, as I say, they used a bit of artistic license, and the mask does kind of reveal portions of his face, because if you're going to get an actor who isn't just a wrestler, who can actually do like method acting and stuff, like Tom Hardy can, is one of my favourite actors, you kind of need to see his face, or at least bits of his face, like his eyes in particular. just so you can identify with him. It's just a big guy in a mask. Otherwise, you might as well just get a wrestler. You might as well just get like Triple H or somebody to play him. Yeah, please don't do that. So I think that was something that they had to do. That was a move that they had to make, and they did it. It looked great as well. I mean, the thing with looked like the teeth on the mask. You know what I mean. It just kind of looked menacing. It was something that we hadn't seen before. Now that was Bane. What other characters can I talk about? The Joker. Well, what is it to say about Heath Ledger's Joker? It hasn't already been said. It brought something new to it. I'm not going to go into that. We're all kind of happy with that. He's a very iconic character. Very iconic role that he played. And the Joker can be played in different ways. I'm looking forward to seeing Jared Leto's interpretation in the next film, which I think will be Suicide Squad in 2017. Or is it? Yeah, 2017. No, isn't it? It's 2016. Yeah, I'm wrong. Yeah, it's the one that comes out after the Batman vs Superman film in that summer. Yeah, I'm getting confused now. I'm not going to talk about those films here. Those films don't tie in, so I don't want to confuse you. But yeah, that's the Joker anyway. Other characters, I say, we've had the Scarecrow. There were other characters, like minor characters like Zaz, who's a kind of serial killer that cuts people with knives and stuff. He was in the first film briefly. Who else do we have? There was Catwoman, played by Anne Hathaway. Some criticised her character in it, saying she was just there for the sake of having Catwoman. She's not even referred to as Catwoman in the film as such. She's just Selena Kyle. I liked her. I think Anne Hathaway is a really good actress. I mean, she's not the best actress, but she's good. And she certainly fit into this universe well. And she looked the part, and she brought something new to it that wasn't kind of cheesy and camp and wasn't redoing what Michelle Pfeiffer had done or what Julie Newmar or Lee Merriweather had done in the old 60s series. Certainly not what Eartha Kitt had done anyway. So it was kind of Christopher Nolan's universe. It was a great part. I didn't have a problem with it at all, and she was very relevant to the story as well. And so I don't see what the criticism of Catwoman's character was. But yeah, the plenty of other characters like Falcone, who was the gangster in the first one, and then you had Maroni, he was another guy in the second film. He's another crime family guy who was the person who burnt Two-Face's face in a courtroom in the comics. They didn't do that in this film. They changed Two-Face's origin in a way so that it wasn't acid that was thrown on his face, it was an explosion, which was kind of what they did in the animated series as well. But again, it was taking the liberty for the sake of it. The story served the film. They didn't just have to just stick to the comic book origins. And I thought Aaron Eckhart is a really good actor. In The Dark Knight, he became Two-Face. I thought he sold it brilliantly. But he hasn't really done a lot of great films, Aaron Eckhart. I think he's an actor with a lot of potential to be a really big star, but he just doesn't seem to have done a lot of good films, apart from The Dark Knight. May have done others, but not ones that I've seen. I'm certainly not going to go see I, Frankenstein. As much as my co-reviewer, wanted to go see that film, he didn't really. I'm just taking the piss. I wouldn't touch that film at all. But yeah, what else about the Two-Face character? He was kind of different because Two-Face was like a long-standing character in Batman, and in this film, The Dark Knight, nobody even really knows who Two-Face is, and that there even was a Two-Face. It was just Harvey Dent kind of got injured and then died, got killed by the Batman allegedly. So they kind of took a lot of liberties with his character and didn't really go where they could have done. I don't know. I liked what they did with him, but I think that they could have lasted it out a bit longer. But then if they'd have done that, we might not have seen as much of Bane and stuff in the next film. It might have just been, in the next film, could have just been all about Two-Face. I don't know. It was. I didn't mind it. It was just, that was something that they could have done but didn't. But hey, there you go. What else did you ask? So you asked about the timeline of the movies. I guess we've covered that and how it passes throughout the trilogy, how the characters relate to each other within this Batman universe. So I guess that kind of answers your question, really. I could ramble on. But it's a solid trilogy as far as I'm concerned. It's one of my favourite trilogies. It's certainly up there. Christopher Nolan definitely was inspired by what Richard Donner had done with the first Superman film, and also the second one, the Richard Donner cut of the second film. So I mean, there is actually on that Blu-ray box set discussion of a video recorded discussion between directors Richard Donner of the 70s Superman and also Christopher Nolan of the Dark Knight trilogy. So it's interesting to see those kind of throw experiences off each other in that box set. So I mentioned that in the first review that I did. So, but it's in my opinion, those two series go together. Not in the same universe, but I just kind of put them on a par with each other. As much as I liked Man of Steel, I think I do prefer the original Christopher Reeve Superman film 1 and 2 slightly. I mean, it's difficult to compare them, but I would say that the Richard Donner Superman film, as I say, is on a par with the Dark Knight trilogy, and it was definitely inspired by it. So I'll leave it there, and I hope that answers the question. So thanks for sticking with us for the last 200 videos at brandxreviews.com, and there's some information at the end of this video about our how to subscribe and YouTube channel and Facebook page and the website, all that stuff. So if you want to check that out, just watch after the video and you'll see how to do all that. But for now, I'm going to say thanks for the mailbag question, Paul. Keep them coming, and same for everybody else that's watching, and I will see you next time. Thank you very much for watching.
Hi guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Just so you know, for more news, reviews and retrospectives, you can like our page on Facebook, simply called Brand X Reviews. But as well as that, you can also subscribe to us on YouTube via this video. You can also bookmark our website, which is brandxreviews.com, which is pretty much a central hub for everything that I've just mentioned. So check that out, and we will see you next time. Thank you very much.